This looks bad. Our men are surrounded by yellow turbans.
It is the height of foolishness to set up camp on a narrow path when you have such numbers.
Yeah, but look on the bright side. Now we get to rescue them.
Hi there, my name is Fridge, and this is my review for Dynasty Warriors 7. I haven't played a Dynasty Warriors game before, or any of the related series, so I wasn't really sure what to expect. Before going in, I knew it was a hack and slash style game that was also described by some as a strategy game. I definitely found a lot of the former, and not so much of the latter whilst playing. There's also some character customization and advancement, although both of these are fairly limited. As with all Dynasty Warriors games, the story follows the Romance of the Three Kingdoms novel from various different viewpoints. The campaign is divided into 4 sections, one for each of the 4 kingdoms of Wu, Shu, Wei and Jin, and in each of the kingdom stories you take on the role of one of several officers and fight your way through legions of the other officers' men.
Help! The yellow turbans! Our village!
Leave everything to us.
Fight me now! For glory!
The gameplay is fairly simple. You start each battle in a base camp where you can talk to other characters as well as buy new weapons to use in the battle ahead, and when you're ready you can start the mission. There are usually a number of different ways to tackle each mission as well as several optional objectives. Your goals in each mission are generally along the lines of capture an area, kill the enemy officer or capturing a siege weapon, and it's generally up to the player to decide what order they wish to take each objective in, and it can have a large impact on the battle as a whole. You could take the enemy barracks first and claim it as your own, which will stop enemy soldiers spawning and give you more reinforcements, or you could try to take the enemy siege weapons quickly in order to stop their assault, or of course you could just run headfirst into the boss and hope he goes down before your army does. As much as there is some choice for the tactics and some variation in the objectives, nearly every battle does boil down to go to the first area and kill the officer, then proceed to the second area and kill the next officer. While you can apply some strategy to this, the same basic principle remains and it does get a little bit repetitive after a while. The other problem comes along in the AI. In most battles you will have other officers supporting you as well as a small battalion of generic guards. Your allied officers will fight with the enemy, but they rarely seem to do any actual damage. At the same time the generic guards will just stand still watching each other, and this is the same for the enemy troops. They just stand around getting in your way and letting you build up your special gauge. At first I assumed this was only a feature of the first level in order to gradually introduce you to the fights, but even in the final battles they would just stand still and let me kill them one by one. The problem with the allied AI becomes more annoying later on when you are fighting multiple officers at once. Even if you are with 3 or 4 allies, all of the enemy officers will just swarm you and knock you down constantly. This becomes quite annoying and leads to cheap tactics like just constantly spamming your big special move to even the odds.
So, brother, remind me again why we have to get involved in this war.
If we don't fight, the war will spread to our lands. To keep our people safe, we have to destroy the conflict at its root.
The controls are your usual hack and slash style of attack, heavy attack, big special attack, jump and block with a number of different combinations to use. The downside to this is that the combos are fairly limited and are only different between the weapons rather than the characters. This means if you pick a sword with any character, their combos will remain exactly the same. You can choose 2 weapons at a time to switch between in real time, but you can also pause the game at any time to change these. There are quite a lot of different weapons to choose from, and different characters have different levels of skill with each one. Each character is also extra proficient with one class of weapons, which gives them an extra attack. These extra attacks tend to be area of effect style attacks, but in some cases they're an extra powerful single target, or they'll buff one of your attributes. While these attacks are very useful, it does pretty much limit your chosen character to that one weapon they have to special attack with, and most of these officers do seem to be proficient with swords. Each weapon also comes with a seal which you can learn and then equip to any other weapon. These seals increase stats and attributes which you can use to gain a significant advantage on the battlefield. This might seem like quite a lot of explanation around the controls and the combat systems, and I haven't gone in depth into everything, but they are really easy to pick up and play without quite resorting to button bashing, although it does get a little close at times. The only thing that really lets it down is the camera. The camera controls for hack and slash games are always a bit of a challenge and they're very difficult to get right, and with Dynasty Warriors 7 they're definitely on the right track, the execution is just a little mishandled. You control the camera with the right analog stick, which is fairly standard, however you are zoomed in way too tight for a game of this scale and the sensitivity is set far too low. This leads to you not being able to see in front of you for the most part, and I seem to be constantly fighting with the camera just to see what I was doing. You can hold down the block button to center the camera behind you, but this breaks the combat up unnecessarily and makes it quite hard to maneuver in battle. As usual, this doesn't ruin the game, but they were so close to getting the camera right and just fell at the last hurdle.
Father, the enemy has emerged from the castle and has formed defensive ranks. Why would they come out? It is the height of idiocy. So you are my next opponent.
As mentioned previously, the story of Dynasty Warriors 7 is based around the ancient Chinese novel Romance of the Three Kingdoms. The original novel is over 800,000 words long, and as such that is quite a lot of story to try and tell as part of an action-oriented hack-and-slash game. A large amount of story is narrated to you over the loading screens which precede every battle, and are incredibly long. At first I tried to listen to it all, but because of the sheer length of the loading screens and that there's nothing to watch during them apart from the usual bar, it just gets a little boring. Trying to mix narration of an epic story with frenetic hack-and-slash gameplay just doesn't quite work for me. It isn't all long loading screens however, there are some cutscenes and some of the story does happen during the battles. The problem here is you're generally too busy trying to fight about 50 people at once to pay any attention to that little thing called story. It really is one extreme to the other here. On the one hand you had too much story and not enough going on the screen to keep you entertained, on the other hand you've got too much action to be able to pay any attention to the story. The actual proper cutscenes that frame the campaigns are better at getting the story across, however they are so few and far between that you've already lost track of the story by the time you get to them. Dynasty Warriors 7 also suffers from over-summarising in places. During one loading screen it tells you that your beloved commander dies of illness. There's no build up to this, no idea of him contracting an illness or it slowing him down. It's just brought up out of nowhere and then we move on as if nothing has happened. While I understand that it's difficult to get the story across in this kind of game, I do feel that they could have gone a little bit better and put just a couple of extra cutscenes in between all the epic battles.
About time. But here is where the real battle begins. We must claim Lu Bu's head. Don't fall behind Guan Yu.
My lord!
General! Don't just stand there! Follow me!
As well as the campaign mode, there is also the Conquest mode, which I'm told is the new version of free roam from the older Dynasty Warriors games if you're a fan of the series. In this mode you get to choose your officer yourself, and you can choose just about anyone from the campaign, including several characters which are unique to this mode. Apart from the character selection, the main difference in this mode is you have to select a battle from a game board style menu, and you get more options on which battle to do and what path to take the more battles you complete. Conquest mode is also the part of Dynasty Warriors that can be played as a multiplayer. This can be done either via local split screen, or online with either friends or random people through matchmaking. The Conquest mode is very different to the campaign mode in that you now have to build up relationships with other generals so they can join you in battle. You can also change character in between battles, and select different animal companions to accompany you into the battle. You get to keep any weapons you unlocked in the main campaign, which, while useful, leaves to incredible imbalance. I started off playing as one of the characters I hadn't used in the campaign, and she had a spinner type weapon which did 6 damage and took a couple of combos to take down a group. Once I switched to a sword user a little bit later, I equipped a sword from the campaign and was one-shotting officers from the get-go. Every so often the Conquest mode lets you take part in legendary battles. These are multi-part battles which you have to play as a very specific officer, and once you complete it you get big rewards and you unlock that officer for use in the rest of the game. While these extra elements do give a bit of new life to the game, they soon get just as repetitive as the rest of it. I found Dynasty Warriors 7 to be a strange game. As I've said, I did find it quite repetitive at times, but on the other hand while playing it, I just kept having to do one more battle every single time. Overall, I think if you're already a fan of Dynasty Warriors games, you will enjoy number 7. If you aren't a fan, then I don't think this will be the game to convert you, and personally I won't be queuing up for number 8.